It pains me to say it guys, but Fear Street Prom Queen is not a particularly good movie. No amount of blood, gore and goodwill built from the previous films can save this one from being an underwhelming mess. For those unaware, Prom Queen is the latest iteration in the Fear Street movie series on Netflix, which itself is an adaptation of R.L. Stine's excellent book series sporting the same name. Unlike Goosebumps though, Fear Street was very much a series designed for older teens and young adults with bigger stakes and wilder twists. The Netflix trilogy did a relatively good job of capturing these vibes, although those teen slashers were not without their own set of problems, which are pretty much exacerbated in this film. You don't need to have seen the trilogy to watch Prom Queen though, but longtime fans of the franchise who have watched those will get more out of this. There are a few notable Easter eggs sprinkled in, and a couple of nods through the dialogue that are sure to be appreciated. We're still in shady side here too, and the hallmarks of this series, which include a litany of killings and a group scrambling for answers, is still very much the lifeblood of this film. The basic premise centers on Laurie Granger, a senior at high school who's haunted by the death of her father. Her mum has been blamed for his death, and it's something that's caused her to believe the Granger name is cursed. To break that perceived curse, Laurie runs for Prom Queen, alongside 5 other it girls at her school. Among them happens to be a girl by the name of Tiffany Falconer, who has a serious chip on her shoulder and is determined to win the coveted crown no matter what. Stirring things up here is Laurie's friend Megan, who has a habit of pulling off elaborate pranks. Her latest includes prosthetic body parts and a spurt of fake blood, and while she does all this for the giggles, there's nothing funny about what happens on prom night. It's here where we learn a killer is on the loose, slowly killing off the different prom queens for reasons that become clear toward the end of the movie. The basic premise keeps things ticking over, but this is also a film that doesn't want you to scrutinise the plot too closely. The reveal of the killer and their motives do make sense, which is at least something, but it also throws up a number of problems with both world building and consistency. Again, I'm not going to reveal that here, but it's a huge sticking point that causes the whole narrative to fall apart when examined closer. The characters themselves are relatively generic, as you'd expect from a teen slasher like this, and there's even some familiar cliches that show up too. We have the rival boyfriend who has a soft spot for Laurie, the weird adults who may or may not be hiding secrets, and a ton of cheesy dialogue throughout. The film never slips into guilty pleasure territory though, because it's too busy trying to lean into its shock factor. There are some pretty gnarly deaths here, but they're superficial at best and don't really feel that earned. There's no suspenseful build up to a lot of these deaths, no sneaky camera angles or fake out jump scares to ratchet up the tension, they just happen. And to make matters worse, there are also a couple of killings that feel like they've been ripped right out of a satire rather than a teen slasher. Aesthetically, Prom Queen very much leans into 80s nostalgia, and you can expect all the big, usual 80s hits to make an appearance. Sweet Dreams and Never Gonna Give You Up are both prominently displayed, alongside generic costuming and set design too. However, it's hard to shake the feel that everybody here is just cosplaying as an 80s teenager, rather than leaning into the reality of actually living as an 80s kid. When you compare this to say Stranger Things Season 1, at least for its scenes in high school, you'll see exactly what I mean. None of this is helped by poor lighting and some questionable camera work, with some scenes benefiting from wide angles or zooming out a bit, rather than questionable extreme close-ups and shaky chase sequences that feel like they've been ripped right out of Cloverfield. The film never tries too hard either, and while that would usually be a bonus and sounds like a bit of a weird thing to scrutinise, the premise and its execution come across as sloppy and amateurish. It's one of those films that feels like it's been made specifically because it has to be, rather than by a team that care about the Fear Street franchise. I briefly mentioned the dialogue before, but it's hard to state just how bad it is here. The film literally opens with a 5-minute exposition dump, while we're constantly told what characters are like and how we should feel about them. The cheesy one-liners aren't the worst thing about this, in fact a few of them are actually quite funny.
Principal's office right fucking now!
But the adults in particular are given such stilted, awkward scripts that it's hard to take any of them seriously. Unless that's the point, it's really hard to tell with this film. The usual combative approach to this criticism though is simply going to be that I, like many others, should just switch off their brain and enjoy what's here. And while yes, you can obviously do that and will probably find parts you'll enjoy, when you stack it up next to other slashers in this field, or even try to question parts of the plot, it just falls apart completely. Urban Legend, Scream, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Happy Death Day, and so on and so forth. There are so many slashers in this field that have the same premise that handle the expectations of the genre with far better execution and finesse, along with a few surprises, than what Prom Queen offers. Overall, this is not a particularly good movie and hard to recommend. It's a sloppy, poorly executed slasher that attempts to lean into its absurdity without understanding exactly what makes that so endearing in a movie. The kills are boring, the gore excessive for all the wrong reasons, and the dialogue is stilted. Do yourself a favour and skip this one. Thanks for watching, and do let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like or subscribe to the channel, your support is very much appreciated. I'm Greg Wheeler, and from all of us over here at The Review Geek, we'll see you on the next video.